This episode of Mission Log is brought to you by Eagle Moss and the official Star Trek Discovery Starships collection. Reserve the USS Shenzhou today for only $9.95 by visiting eaglemoss.com/discovery starships.
Let's do something we don't normally do.
Song and dance?
Yeah, well, maybe that later. Although I think both of us have been known... Well, I know I've been known to sing a time or two on this show. And I dance every time. It's just people can't see because, you know, it's audio. It's not quite a disclaimer. But if you're in the habit of listening to Mission Log with your kids, you may want to listen to this episode without them first. Now, as we begin, we're really beginning. We haven't actually started recording yet, so I'm not telling you we're going to say something horribly offensive or whatever. But I know that this episode is going to touch on themes that you may want to have other kinds of discussions with your kids about them, or you may be the kind of person who doesn't want to have these discussions with your kids at all. And either one of those is fine. It's just, generally speaking, we feel pretty good about saying, sure, listen with a 12-year-old end up. You know, maybe a particularly mature 10-year-old. But today, we're both thinking you may want to give this one a listen yourself before you have the kids join in. So, I don't want to say you're warned, but you are.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Episode 253, Sub Rosa.
Welcome to Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Ken Ray. Each week on Mission Log, we watch an episode of Star Trek, taking it apart for messages, morals, and meanings, and seeing whether the whole thing holds up. This week, get ready for one of the scariest episodes of Star Trek ever to be made.
Because it's a ghost story.
Oh yeah, that too. No, I was thinking because it's Sub Rosa, the one where Beverly falls for a ghost. I mean, a candle. I mean, her Nana's lover. John's got trivia just ahead, but first, a word from our friends at Eagle Moss and the officially authorized Star Trek Starships collection featuring Star Trek Discovery Starships, available only from Eagle Moss Collections. So, this collection features the brand new ship concepts from that brand new show, Star Trek Discovery. Each one has gone through extensive reference study and reproduced under the strict supervision of Star Trek expert Ben Robinson for accuracy and detail. Are we violating the timeline by talking about it? You bet we are. But here's the thing: they're awesome. It's actually really amazing to me that they're this much on the game, or this much ahead, I suppose. These ships are going to be hitting right about the midpoint, actually, of Discovery's first season run. John will tell you more about that in a second. In the meantime, let me let you know what ship you're getting. It's the Shenzhou is the one that they're starting off with. These are the bigger ones. These are not the tiny little starships. They're about 8 inches. And what's really cool is, you know, the detail that you get on the tiny little starships. Well, they can give you that detail in bigger ways because they basically got a bigger canvas with which to play. Each ship comes with the same display stand that you love, and it comes with those amazing collector magazines that tell you both about the design of the ship, like in our world, and then it gives you history of the ship in the Star Trek universe as well. And it's that kind of, like, you know, it's that kind of in-universe information that really turns me on about those things.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They are coming in limited quantities starting in early 2018. So right now, as of you hearing this show, right now is the time to guarantee your subscription. And you can do that very easily by reserving your first ship, the USS Shenzhou, NCC 1227, for only $9.95 with free shipping. So the ship itself will be sent out to you on or before January 31st, 2018.
New models will then follow along and be delivered directly to your door. Subscribers can enjoy an exclusive 20% discount on every starship in the series, along with free shipping. You can, of course, cancel at any time, but then you're discovering a whole lot less of the Discovery starships, aren't you?
Yes. So, for details on the entire collection and to reserve your place among the first to subscribe, visit eaglemoss.com/discovery starships. That address one more time, eaglemoss.com/discovery starships. And again, we thank Eaglemoss for sponsoring Mission Log.
I don't want to keep people from trivia for too long, but I do want to let them know how to get in touch with us. In fact, hey, people, let me tell you, please, how to get in touch with us. Mission Log Pod is the address to find us on Facebook, Skype, and Twitter. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, we would love to hear your voice. 323-522-5641 is the phone number to call, 323-522-5641. Our email address is missionlog@roddenberry.com. Our show website, including discovered documents, is at missionlogpodcast.com. You can leave comments there as well. And please do remember, we may use your comments on an upcoming episode of Mission Log. I feel like I've held this trivia train up for far too long. Please, conductor champion, take it away.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Here we go.
Am I ready?
Yeah.
All aboard the trivia train, because it's rolling through right now.
Woot woot. All right. Trivia for Sub Rosa. This episode is based on a story by Gina F. Gallo. Putting that open submission policy to use again. Gina was a longtime Star Trek fan, going back to the original series. She sent in the pitch for this episode, and therefore she gets a based upon material by credit here. This is her only professional credit in entertainment, but she actually did pitch a story for Voyager, which was made. She didn't get a credit for that one, though, at least not on screen. So the story was molded into shape by Jeri Taylor, and she's the one who really championed this idea to get made. The point was to do something outside of Star Trek's usual storytelling and dabble in a romance with Gothic themes. So ultimately, that teleplay credit goes to Brannon Braga. He has a penchant for weird, for horror, for Gothic, etc. It seemed like the right fit, and he and Jeri Taylor were really the two who were excited to tell this story. It has a lot of influence from the movie The Innocents, and Brannon and Jeri both readily admit that. If you haven't seen the movie, do check it out. 1961, Truman Capote co-wrote the screenplay. It's one of those horror films I like where it's just as much about the psychological horror as it is the prospect of something supernatural. It stars Deborah Kerr and Peter Wingard, who I, of course, know and love as Clytus from Flash Gordon, so do give that a look if you can. And Brannon even took a couple of character names for this episode from that movie, so the ties are even deeper there. Hey, this is called Sub Rosa. Know what that means, Ken?
Beneath the Rose.
Very good. Do you know why it is called Beneath the Rose, or what that means?
I'm sorry. I'm actually stunned that I was right about that.
Yeah, well, you're totally right.
It's far too simple. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It has a really cool backstory. So,
wait, I would think it would have to do with the flower that he was tossing on her grave.
Nope.
Okay. Well, I got one anyway. So I should have stopped. I should have said thank you and good night right there is what I should have done.
Sub Rosa is a Latin phrase that, yes, literally under the rose. But the reason is that this was sort of a shorthand that if you had a meeting of Romans, maybe officially in some official capacity, if you saw a rose, that meant that what was being said, what was being discussed, was to be kept quiet. This was a secret meeting. So this is sort of a visual shorthand to say, not to be discussed with everybody. So there you go. The episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes, and this is the last of his directing credits on the TV series Next Generation. The last one of his that we talked about was Attached. There will be more of his work to look at in the coming years. And, Ken, if you looked really closely in the graveyard, you can kind of tell in HD, tombstones in that graveyard. We have McFly, and we have Vader. So, yeah. It was kind of fun for the art department on that one. Here's another question for you. What does Ronin mean?
Pass.
Okay, well, Ronin sort of generically means a wanderer, a traveler, but very specifically in Japanese, it's sort of a samurai without a leader.
Right.
So, yeah, and you didn't know that. I didn't know that, although I knew that there was the movie Ronin, and I kind of knew that had some story there. Brandon didn't know that either. He just named the character, and then, oh, look, in Japanese, that has sort of a meaning that could tie into the character, too. How cool. How lucky for us. There are deleted scenes for this episode if you're watching the Blu-ray version. We have a little more at the opening in the eulogy for Beverly's grandmother. It kind of goes on way too long with a reading of a gingerbread recipe. Look, I know it was supposed to be poignant, but you can tell exactly why they trimmed this for time. There's a very, very short bit of dialogue which references Jack Crusher in conversation between Deanna and Beverly. And I kind of wish they had kept that in there. It's not crucial, but Beverly talks about, oh, yeah, that's when I moved to Earth, meaning that this colony was home. You know, there's really the only home that she knew. And then I moved to Earth with Jack. So a little more interesting backstory on her if we had kept that line in the final cut.
About the only problem with that is, why would she have gone to Earth? Because, like, I mean, I sort of get why they cut it, because then you do what I'm doing right now, trying to figure out, okay, so she grew up here, she marries Jack, she goes to Earth, but he's serving in Starfleet. So why would she move to Earth anyway? Why wouldn't she just be here? If he's going to have away time, or, you know, shore leave, he could just as easily have it here as he could there.
Maybe she needed to experience something other than a Scottish diet. She was, you know.
You got a problem with haggis, mister?
Maybe. All right. And one more short little bit with Ned Quint, more of his warning to Beverly about being in the house and how she needs to get out. So, but we kind of already hit that in other scenes, so you can see why that one was trimmed for time as well. A handful of guest stars to talk about here. Of course, we get a glimpse of Nana, Felisa Howard, as played here by Ellen Albertini Dow. Now, the character was actually named after Brandon's grandmother. So, again, Brandon putting in all these interesting tidbits into his script. So, remember that rapping granny in The Wedding Singer? Well, that was Ellen. And, yeah, she actually did perform that. So she memorized that rap, and she did that in The Wedding Singer. She had been a drama and dance coach for decades and didn't start her professional on-camera career until the 1980s, when she was already in her 70s. A lot of TV roles followed, as well as feature films like Wedding Crashers and Road Trip. She passed away in 2015 at the age of 101. Now, the alien governor of Kaldos, Maturin, was played by Michael Keenan. Michael is primarily a TV guest actor, but he has had recurring roles on Dallas and Picket Fences. We will see him again in a short recurring role on Deep Space Nine, and then again on Voyager. Ned is played by Shay Duffin. He's Irish, born in Dublin. In addition to TV roles, Shay had roles in some landmark films like Raging Bull, Titanic, and The Departed. Finally, Ronan is played by Duncan Rager. Wow, he was Dracula in the movie The Monster Squad. And if that wasn't enough pop culture goodness for you, he played Zorro in the early 90s TV series. And on top of that, he was Charles in the TV series V. He got his start in Vancouver, where he grew up, even hosting a TV talk show when he was 14 years old. And he's one of those actors we will see again on Trek when he comes back for a recurring stint on Deep Space Nine.
Fun fact: while conversations held sub rosa were never meant to be discussed publicly, many feel the same way about this episode of Star Trek.
Prologue. Beverly's grandmother, Felisa Howard, has died, and the Enterprise is orbiting the planet Kaldos for her funeral. Beverly's grandmother was a healer, an advisor, and an inspiration. People paid their silent respects, and hey, who's the hottie that just threw a camellia on Nana's grave? Act 1. One question preoccupies Dr. Crusher. Who was the hottie that threw a camellia on Nana's grave? That was Nana's favorite flower. Counselor Troy didn't see the guy, so she can't say. A friend, maybe? A patient? Beverly thinks not. The gesture was very personal. Beverly's got some things to take care of at her grandmother's house. She and the counselor head that way. Captain Picard, meanwhile, is chatting with Kaldos Colony's Governor Maturin. Kaldos was an early terraforming colony, one of the Federation's first, and they could use some upgrades. To the weather system, for example. Picard says they'll stay a few days and make it so. The whole thing is meant to feel like Scotland because why not? Back at Nana Manor, Deanna and Beverly are chatting. Looking at a picture, Troy says Beverly's grandmother had remarkable green eyes. Beverly says all of the Howard women did, except for her and her mother. When her mother died, Felisa raised Beverly. A candle catches Deanna's eye. Beverly says it's an heirloom, been in the family for generations. It goes with the Howards where they do. The shining light to guide them through their fortune. Beverly says she'll be taking it with her. Then, Deanna leaves the doctor for a little alone time in her grandmother's house. Beverly heads upstairs with her grandmother's journal, giving groundskeeper Willie time to come in, blow out the Howard candle, and really upset Dr. Crusher. Actually, he's Ned Quent, a caricature, and he'll no take her telling him off. He's been here, she hasn't, and that candle is bad news. It's a curse. Has been for generations. If she's smart, she'll toss it. Instead, she tosses Quent. Fine, he's done with them. Back on the Enterprise, Data, Geordi, and Governor Maturin are talking about the weather, also known as the B-plot. The weather on Kaldos is really weird all of a sudden, but no worries. They'll fix it in time for the caber toss, scheduled for tomorrow. Meanwhile, Dr. Crusher is telling Captain Picard that she's been reading her Nana's journals. Nana, 100-year-old Nana, had a 34-year-old lover. They spent almost all of their time together. The weird thing, though... another weird thing, though, Nana never mentioned this. Ronan. Later, Beverly falls asleep, reading Felissa's journal by candlelight. When the candle flickers out, unseen hands begin undressing the doctor. She wakes when a ghostly voice whispers her name. Act 2. Beverly and Deanna are talking in 10 Forward. They're supposed to be doing personnel reports, but all Beverly can think about is the dream that she had last night. Well, less a dream than a presence. It felt so real. He knew exactly how she liked to be touched. Troy figures Beverly got turned on by reading Nana's journals. Keep reading your Nana's journals. You may have more awesome dreams. Later, back on Kaldos, Beverly bumps into Ned Quent at Felisa's grave. Having read Felisa's journals, Beverly knows now that she and Flint were close. Yeah, your Nana was cool. Beverly says Ned can stay at the house if he likes, but he says no. The house is haunted, and don't light that candle. It's where the ghost lives. He's angry now. The ghost is. That's why he's bringing the storms. Beverly explains that a malfunction in the weather station is bringing the storms, but, says Ned, who do you think broke the weather stations? With one more warning, Ned takes off, just as the storm gathers strength. Beverly heads back to her grandmother's house for shelter. This storm is no joke. They're picking it up on the Enterprise. Geordi thinks they should set up a power transfer from the ship to the weather system to try to tame the outbreak. Picard agrees. Back at Nana's, wow, this place is full of camellias. Act 3. There's a presence at Nana's place. In a mirror, Beverly is startled to see the handsome stranger from the funeral behind her, but she spins, and he's not there. He does start talking to her, though, identifying himself as Ronan, and telling her everything. Last night was not a dream. He came to her. He's professing his love for her, and, well, taking liberties would be putting it mildly. He also explains he was born in Glasgow on Earth in 1647. He found a home 800 years ago with Giselle Howard, and he's been passed Howard mother to Howard daughter every generation since. And now, says Ronan, the two of them will become one. Back on the Enterprise, Deanna stops by to see if Beverly wants to go to exercise class. Beverly says no, but it gives the counselor time for a good gossip. It looks to her like Beverly has met someone for whom she has feelings. Beverly confesses she's met Ronan, her grandmother's lover, and he's dreamy. Of course, she leaves out the part about him being a ghost, but she includes the part where she's never met anyone so passionate. Though the situation is unusual, Deanna says she's happy for Beverly. One thing to consider, though, both Ronan and Beverly have suffered a loss. Shared trauma can create the illusion of closeness and romance. Yeah, thanks. Bye. On the bridge, a fog has rolled in. Not figuratively, literally. Weather on the Enterprise is getting screwed up. Some sort of feedback from the power relay. Can somebody please fix that? Data can't disconnect the power transfer. He'll have to go to the weather relay station. There, Data and Geordi find Ned Quint. He's ranting that he's trying to kill us all. So Quint's trying to kill the power station. Instead, a power surge kills Quint. Act 4. Governor Maturin says Quint trying to kill the weather station makes no sense. He was a good guy. That's not the only weird thing, though. Beverly says there's some other kind of energy in Quint's system. Whatever killed him, it wasn't a power surge. Data says he cannot ID the energy, but it does have the same signature as the fluctuations they've seen in the power beam. It's possible that whatever's messing up the weather system also killed Quint. Geordi says they should scan the colony for anything else with that anaphasic signature. Dr. Crusher sends Quint's body back to the ship for tests. She has other things to attend to. Actually, one thing. Ronan. Back at her grandmother's house, she tries to confront him about Quint's death, but wow, Ronan is real now? Yes, it's him, in the flesh. It's hard to look this good. No, seriously, taking physical form is very difficult for him. It is hard to look anything. He needs Beverly to light the candle, please. Yes, Quint was right. It is Ronan's home. And if it's out for too long, or too far away, Ronan gets weak. Beverly says it's on the ship. She'll go get it, but he says no. He needs to go with her. He'll travel up the power transfer beam, then she can light the candle, and they can be together. Always. Back on the Enterprise, Beverly lights the candle and waits like a junkie for a hit. And it comes. Ronan is there, promising to be with her, to take care of her, and she will feel love as she has never felt it before. And with that, they are one. Not in a sexual way. He's a green mist or something, with which she seems to be having sex. Cut to a transporter room where Beverly is in civilian clothes. She's resigned her commission. She's leaving the ship and staying on Kaldos to become a healer like her grandmother. Picard argues, but she's resigned her commission unless he's planning to kidnap her. And the captain has no choice. He allows her to beam away. Act 5. Captain Picard and Counselor Troy are talking over the whole Ronan-Beverly thing. Picard wonders whether Ronan is exerting some sort of control over Beverly. Both Captain and Counselor agree that Beverly has made a rash decision, but whether they agree with it, it is her right to make that decision. Now remember the search for an anaphasic signature in the colony? Geordi and Data have found it in the cemetery. They'll go down to pinpoint the source, and you'll never guess where they find it. Nana's grave. At Nana's place, Crusher and Ronan, in convenient mist form, are doing it. He says they're nearly merged. Soon they will be one. They're interrupted, though, by a knock at the door. It's Picard, just dropping by to meet this Ronan fellow. Crusher says he's not there. Have you changed the color of your eyes? They're green now. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Myself. Totally my choice. Picard says he liked her better the way she was before, but she does not care. This is how she is now, and it is her life. Now he can go. But no, he says, there's something wrong here. This is more than an obsessive love affair that's got out of hand. How is it that no one has seen Ronan but you? And with that, Ronan appears. just walking down the stairs like a dude who's totally not a ghost. So he's there when Geordi calls to say the anaphasic energy signature isn't coming from Nana's grave. It's coming from Nana's coffin. Can they dig her up, please? If the governor says it's okay, it's fine with Picard. And Ronan is not happy. Leave her alone. But Picard has a ton of questions. How did you get here? How long have you been here? Seriously, what is your deal? Under the barrage of questions, Ronan sort of winks out of existence. Picard reaches for Beverly, but is hit with the same sort of green lightning that killed Ned Quint. The disembodied voice of Ronan tells Beverly they have to stop the others, but Beverly has to save Picard. Picard's fine, of course, and he urges Beverly to go to the cemetery to stop Ronan. At the cemetery, Geordi and Data have Nana's coffin open. They're talking over what to do when the old woman opens her eyes and zaps Data and Geordi with the same green lightning that knocked out Picard and killed Ned Quint. And now, Crusher knows that Ronan's been dosing her with small amounts of the same energy. He's no ghost. He's some sort of anaphasic life form. He needs a host body. And Quint was right. He really does live in the candle when he's not living in a Howard woman. He's been using them for centuries. And he loved all of them, he yells. And they loved him. Oh, not good enough. Beverly destroys the candle, and then, with a few phaser bursts, she kills Ronan. Back aboard the Enterprise, Beverly's back in uniform. Talking it over with Deanna, she figures there was some biological something that made her family a match for Ronan. Despite being what he was, Beverly's a little sad about how things ended. Whatever else he might have done, Ronan did make Beverly's grandmother very happy. The end. Also, Ike Turner ran a tight band and Harvey Weinstein made some good movies. What the... Sorry, really, the end.
Did you tip your hand there at the end, Ken? I'm sorry, I was...
Did I?
I heard a little, I heard of the end, and then I kind of got distracted, and then I wasn't... Yeah. Okay.
True to my word at the top of the show, though, I did not curse. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, we're not going to drop a bunch of four-letter words in this show. We bleeped that out last week.
Well, in fairness, I don't actually count the number of letters in each word. There may be many four-letter words.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Could be.
No curse words, though, I think.
No.
Unless you count that candle. Sorry. Because it's a curse, It's a curse thing.
Okay. Let's and curse is a four-letter word. So let's see what we got in this episode. Still great plastic surgery in the future. Green eyes? Yeah, done. You want green eyes? Boom.
That was not plastic surgery. That was Ronan. What are you talking about?
You think Ronan would actually change the eyes? Because I thought that was just a thing that she did. She was like, well...
It's green lightning.
Yeah, I saw the green lightning.
He's a green mist.
He's a green mist.
It's green energy.
She's just got the green energy in her
I believe
eyes.
that once... because he keeps saying all the way through, they are almost merged. See, what I can't figure out is, do they live as like sort of a symbiotic thing, or does he just take over? Is he actually living for 600, 800 years as various Scottish women? I think it is symbiotic. I think actually the writing in the journal indicates that Nana had a relationship with Ronan. But yes, I don't think
he is indeed a separate being. Yeah.
Right, but I think Ronan's inhabiting Beverly, or starting to inhabit Beverly, is changing the color of her eyes.
He's starting to move in. He's starting to put paint on the walls, right, even if he hasn't totally signed the lease yet.
Because go back to what she said before. Every woman for 800 years in the Howard family has had green eyes, except for her mother and her. What do they have in common? Yeah. I mean, aside from being related, they're the only two that have never been inhabited by Ronan.
Well, that's true. And lucky for her mother.
Except for the part where she's dead and has been since Beverly was a kid. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
There's that unfortunate part. Part.
Yes, but I think the green eyes are a byproduct of relationship with Ronan, not surgery. Although,
all right, very good. I'm glad we have that clear. Yeah,
as you say, obviously it is something you can just do, because Picard's like, did you change the color of your eyes? And she's like, yeah, because we do that if we wanna.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seemed very matter of fact.
It'd be kind of fun. Just do the whole Marilyn Manson thing. Just like, one brown eye, one blue eye, whatever. I'm crazy up in here. You're my first officer. I don't know which eye to look in. I'm just saying it's weird, Will. It's weird.
Yeah. Oh, how cool would that be, though?
It'd be pretty cool.
I want to mention the burial service just for a little bit, because when I read this, and this is something that was reported on Memory Alpha, so I don't know the source of who is pulling the original as reference here. Mm-hmm. But there was something really interesting to me that made me think about our first episode when we talked about the cage. And we talked about how the Telosians referred to hell as an ancient legend you heard on Earth.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a mention here about the service that they're doing at the beginning of the episode, and how it's sort of an Anglican tradition, but the words are slightly different to sort of frame this as a more secular version of that service.
Oh, yeah. You're supposed to be secure in the knowledge that we'll all meet again in heaven.
Right. So the original line, sure and certain hope of the resurrection unto eternal life, mm-hmm. but they changed it here, sure and certain hope that her memory will be kept alive within us all.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very specific change.
Yeah.
And sort of says something about... I know, it's interesting. In Star Trek, we've pointed this out many times, and we've had things that are definitely traditions and religiously steeped traditions that carry on in this future version, but probably don't have the same exact meaning that they did in the past. And from Star Trek's point of view, the past being now, or our recent past.
Well, first of all, don't worry about whether they got the words right in Memory Alpha, because having been to a few Episcopalian funeral services over the past few years, you got the wording right.
Okay.
But the other thing is, it's like saying happy holidays, right? I mean, even if we're not in a Telosian future here, where it turns out there's no religion, there's no God, everything, everybody's like cool with the fact everybody's atheists or whatever. Even if you're not doing that, I mean, they would want to be more inclusive in the Star Trek future, right?
Sure.
So you don't want to say, the whole thing about the resurrection, because who knows? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's your religion. Maybe it's your religion. Maybe it's your religion over there. Look under your seat. You get a religion. You get a religion. You get a religion. And so you're not going to say, yeah, but really Jesus, right? I mean, instead you're going to say, right. No, it's cool because we're all going to remember her in our own way, and maybe you'll see her in heaven, or maybe you'll see her in Sto-vo-kor. It's tough to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, and speaking of that funeral, it felt, again, very traditional for it to be the 24th century. I mean, that's fine and everything. People like certain traditions. They hold on to those traditions, maybe even for hundreds of years. But, this is a burial unlike anything we've seen on Star Trek before. The most prominent burial that we've seen was blasting a guy in a torpedo tube into space. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, these days in particular, as of the recording of this show, there's a lot of interest in more, say, eco-friendly methods of disposing of the dead. But here we are a few hundred years in the future, and you got the traditional, the big casket with the metal and the hole in the ground and everything. But I guess you also have a lot of room on that very sparsely populated planet.
I was going to say, ecology goes out the window once you start finding Class M planets all over the place.
Sure, who cares?
I think half the reason to start colonizing other planets is so we can use styrofoam again.
Right.
Because it keeps the hot side hot and the cold side cold, John.
I know, but not for more than 20 years, Ken. Not for more than 20 years.
I know it's not healthy now, but someday we're orbiting the planet Styrofoamia. Guess why we're here? Yeah. Because it keeps the hot side hot and the cold side cold.
And then you get the same lukewarm burger you had all along. So let's see. We had another reference to Nana's medical abilities. Remember that Beverly had mentioned before her use of herbs and other healing agents. We got that way back in season 1, I think, was Arsenal of Freedom, when she had to treat Picard, and she didn't have her medical kit. And we so recently learned about Nana's vegetable soup. So we're really filling out the character here for Nana. Thought that was good, that there was more to her. Too bad that we don't have that gingerbread recipe. You can only get that if you watch it on Blu-ray.
On the Blu-ray, yeah.
Yeah, check that out if you want. I was really impressed that this colony had a super advanced weather control system. Mm-hmm. Because you remember, it's only been very recently that we've had the Enterprise crew dealing with ecological disasters on other planets, and either Geordi or Data saying, like, no, we can't do that, or if we do that, it'll be a temporary fix at best. This place has got it all. They can turn the weather on and off as they please. You want to roll in a fog, they can do that. You want to stop the rain, you can do that. They are set. They absolutely are set. And they mentioned that they wanted to make sure there was no rain the next afternoon because there was a caber toss.
Yeah.
A caber toss, Ken. They could not be more Scottish if they tried.
Well, they could. There were no Lucky Charms.
That's Irish, Ken. The Lucky Charms.
What's the difference?
The colony was Scottish.
What?
Yeah, no, the colony was Scottish, and if it isn't Scottish, it's crap.
And
right.
Scene. Please
Scene.
Do not send the emails because I know there's a difference. We were doing a Saturday Night Live thing. And if you haven't seen
It's a bit.
Yeah. Was that the name of the store, actually? If it's not Scottish, it's crap?
I think it was Everything Scottish, but that
Everything
was the
Scottish,
tagline.
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's not Scottish, it's crap. Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. Look, I know we're going to get more into the kind of curious discussions of sex in this episode, but there's some sly conversation about sex in the 24th century. Nana's 100, and Ronan's in his 30s, and Picard's just sort of like, huh.
Wow.
In his 30s, okay. That's how it works with the Howard women. Okay.
Yeah. Phrases you never want to hear, though. Mm-hmm. I did fall asleep reading a particularly erotic chapter in my grandmother's journal.
Oh, no.
I know, dude.
No.
I know. We will have a mature and adult conversation about sex as adults and as older adults later in the show. In the meantime, I stand by my statement. I don't want to hear the phrase, and I certainly don't want to utter the phrase, except in this show. I did fall asleep reading a particularly erotic chapter in my grandmother's journal.
We're done with that. We're done with that.
I don't know. If it makes you squirmy, I might say it 2 or 3 more times. Just it's fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what exactly was the inspiration for the character of Ned. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Brannon or Jerry Taylor or somebody, did one of them just say to themselves, I know we've had a Scottish character named Scotty for 25 years, but maybe people don't believe our commitment to portraying Scottish characters in Star Trek.
Yeah.
So
he's even got the Scottish accent. He's from Galway.
He is. He is
from Galway. Was he from Dublin? Where was he from?
They
someplace Scottish. I know it was that.
Yeah.
Because they're interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So Beverly took the last name Crusher when she married Jack, but every other woman in her family history had the last name Howard. So, but
don't you worry.
Okay, because Howard.
Don't you worry. Believe me, that is the least to worry about in this episode.
It feels like someone should have been selling giant turkey legs outside of Nana's cemetery. And flowery headbands. And maybe a leather goblet.
All right, Ken, I know that we're at the part of the show where we have to do the serious, in-depth, really thoughtful, heavy-hitting stuff. I know.
The hard-hitting expose of sex and your grandmother.
Yes. All right. Just keep throwing that out. But before we get to that, look, there's something just so weird about this episode that I feel like I have to address, that I have to sort of work out in my mind. And by in my mind, I mean to an audience through a microphone.
Yeah.
There's something really bizarre about the Federation having a Scottish theme park masquerading as a colony on a faraway planet. There's just a huge level of theming going on here, even down to Nana's house. Look, I have friends who are very dedicated to mid-century art and design. Like, they wear the clothes, you walk into the house, and all the furniture is vintage from the period, and it's sort of like a museum, but a fun museum, right?
Can I ask a question really quickly? By I have friends, do you mean I?
No. Well, right. maybe okay. A little bit.
All right. I was going to say, Mr. Nehru jacket, Mr.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I happen to know you have a set of cutlery from TWA in the mid 50s.
Yes.
Of course, I happen to know this because I gave it to you, but I happen to know that you would like it.
And it happens to be sitting on a Sarin and tulip table with okay. But anyway. But look, but those people like myself, we all have computers and microwave ovens and other things that allow us to sort of live in the current day as well.
Yeah.
So there's something really odd about this, like, 19th century farmhouse, right? Even my family for years have had this little cabin in rural Georgia, but even there's a TV, and you can kind of sort of hop on the internet, and you can make a phone call, and you can do that other kind of stuff. There's something that I really like about the idea that in the pursuit of happiness part of this future that we're projecting in the 24th century, that people have the freedom to live in that future exactly the way they want to live. Agrarian society? Done. Or, you want to live on a space station? Done. Cool. In this case, you want to live in a facsimile of a 19th century Scottish village? You can. I think that's awesome. But it's also really, really weird. And look, I know that this is Star Trek, and Star Trek's not real, and we have to take everything as metaphor and storytelling and fiction. But this is something that is so dead-on specific. I was thinking about, okay, you and I both love Disneyland.
Yes.
Can't take that away from me. I go there a lot. That's one of the perks of living where I do. Mm-hmm. And there's something that I love about Disneyland that some people don't get, that it is a place created to tell a story. And you pay your ticket and you go in and you become a part of that story for that day, right? And everywhere you look in a certain land, it looks like that land, and you are a part of that action. It's immersive theater, and the architecture plays a role, a big, big role in that. Mm-hmm. But then you think about Celebration, Florida. Celebration, this little town that Disney designed and built. And I think it's a really cool idea because you know that from a design point of view, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be beautiful. It will be well thought out, well planned. But then you move real people in. Mm-hmm. Real people have to live their lives, and real people who have different points of view than their neighbors and different tastes than their neighbors. And the amount of buy-in then that it takes from the people living there to maintain that theming, to maintain that sort of big picture vision that this little community is trying to project. I'm at once fascinated and kind of want that, but I'm also horrified by that.
Well, I mean, you're talking about it in terms of Disney. I don't really understand, like, the whole places where you can buy houses that are part of a homeowners association, where you then have homeowners association fees, where you spend, however much money so that somebody can tell you, how high your grass is allowed to get before you're going to be fined. Or whether or not you can put a lawn decoration on your lawn. And by the way, don't bother checking the bylaws. The answer is no. more often than not, apparently. I mean, it's not a way that I've ever chosen to live. And I might be lying if I said that I actually could choose to do it, but even if I could, I wouldn't. I mean, it's just not. I'm more of an apartment in the middle of the city kind of guy than I am or a house, somewhere near the city. I'm not suburbs, and I'm really not. Let me pay you to tell me how I can live. As far as, whether my lawn is decorated enough or whether I can let the kids draw, in chalk on the sidewalk, for that matter.
Yeah. Well, there was something in that conversation with Ned, kind of berating Beverly, like, I know I'm not going to do the accent. No, I'm just not. But he's saying to her, your world of starships and science where you don't believe in the supernatural. And I'm thinking, like, Ned, the only reason you're here is because you took a starship from Earth to get to the Scottish theme park.
Okay, first of all, he never gave the speech about your science and your starships. So my guess is that you actually saw that in the Blu-ray.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
There is much more extensive of that in the Blu-ray. Yeah. It's an extension of a scene. Yeah.
Right. He certainly could have lived there, though. I mean, he could have been born there. He didn't necessarily take a starship. The place was built 100 years ago, and Ned's only in his, 50s or 60s, maybe. So he could easily have been born there. Don't know how he got the accent on. Although I guess, maybe there were lots of people just like him. I mean, because that's the thing. You say it's theming, but they actually decided to go there. They even took stones from buildings in all of the places that they wanted to try to recreate so they could recreate it. It is kind of it's a weird almost like... it's a strange sort of almost nationalism, maybe?
Well, I was about to say there's like a weird political implication about all of this as well. Like, we joked before that, now we have all this land, we have all these M-class planets.
Yep.
If you want to be wasteful, cool. You can be wasteful there until your population grows to such an extent that you can't do that anymore. But you can also create this little political enclave where, again, everybody has to buy in. Everybody has to buy into exactly the vision that you're creating there. It just happens that this vision is a very specific, very old version of Scotland that's sort of a fairy tale version of Scotland.
It's actually only the first generation that has to buy in, though. It's just the people who go there. Because then once you're born, I mean, you can rebel against your parents just the way people have done, since kids were kids.
And can you imagine that? If you are a kid who grows up there and go, wait, I don't have to light candles? You mean there are spaceships? Wait, you mean that I could literally be matter transported to another place in seconds? Why are we here?
Okay, well, I think, you're, all right, here's the problem. You're assuming quite a bit based on what we've got. Let's go back to what you said in trivia. This was a woman who wanted to write a gothic romance, right? And she sort of laid Star Trek over it. We don't know that they don't have transporters. I mean, witness the fact that Beverly, in part of the backstory that was, cut out, witness the fact that Beverly married a Starfleet dude and moved to Earth. And, they know about Starfleet. They know that they've got a weather control system. Even groundskeeper Willie knew that they had a weather control system. But he was like, yeah, but it's breaking. And she's like, well, yeah, because things break. And he's like, yeah, but it's a ghost that's breaking it. So he knows the technology is there. He's aware of all of that. It's just he's choosing. I mean, I would liken it without the religious aspect. I would liken it honestly to the Amish or the Mennonites. Maybe the Mennonites more than the Amish, actually, because the Amish are like, no phones, nothing. And as I understand it, the Mennonites are a little like, yeah, but, there is actually this whole world that exists outside, so we're going to meet them. Let's go, 3070 or something.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I don't know anything about the Mennonites. I apologize. I get the sense that they as a people are more accepting of the world as it is outside of their community today. And the various technologies and comforts it affords.
No, like I said, I kind of love it. The idea that you can carve out this place that is exactly the kind of place that you want to be. And maybe there's enough colonists who have the exact same vision as you. And if you all live out your lives in that exact same vision, wow, that's really cool. Also a little terrifying, also a little weird, but that's what they chose. So
really quickly, here's what I will say, though. You want to make Scotland great again? Fine. Yeah. Do it someplace else. And then they're like, okay, you got it, man. I will make my country great again on another planet.
Right.
Cool, dude.
Yeah. So
excellent. And I will see you if you ever get bored and decide to come back to this planet. All right. Let's talk about something that I like in this episode.
Okay.
All right. So hang tight. Your grandmother, your Nana, your Gibby, your Grammy, your more, and your far more. Okay. All of these people had sex. Not together.
Okay.
As far as you know. Yeah. But they did all have sex. And we know that because you get to hear these words. I say get to hear these words, have to hear these words, whatever. I honestly like the fact, and I know we've joked about it and sort of like, I don't want to think about my grandmother having sex, but I like the fact that we are actually talking about sex, besides between two teenagers or between two 28-year-olds or even between two 30-something-year-olds, right? I like that we're talking about sex in this episode after 50, after 60, after 90, for crying out loud. when I was 18, I doubt that I thought that people in their 50s had sex. But now in my 40s, oh, fingers crossed, you know?
Right.
I like the fact that, aside from Picard, I mean, really all Picard seemed to be thinking, and maybe it's because I'm wondering about the relationship between Picard and Crusher, all Picard seemed to be thinking was, wow, I wonder if I could keep up. Right?
Yeah.
He wasn't thinking, oh, you're 100-year-old Nana was having sex with a 34-year-old man? Gross. He was more like, fair play to Nana. All right. Mm-hmm. You know? And I actually like that. I like the fact that they weren't like, ooh, she was sleeping with somebody. Ooh, she was sleeping with somebody younger. It's more like, oh, she's sleeping with a ghost. Okay, that's where it kind of falls apart. I'll grant you.
No, I totally agree with you. I liked that moment that Picard had. It was played for laughs, but it wasn't a laugh at the expense of Nana.
Yeah.
It was just, it was about Picard, like you said, trying to keep up.
Right.
And there was something about it, because, look, Next Gen, as of us recording the show, is 30 years old. Mm-hmm. And it was a show that was on multiple times of the day, aimed at multiple audiences. And they're not going to get really deep or really progressive about discussing the sex lives of people in the 24th century. But they've left us these little clues all along. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the Riker and Deanna Troi relationship in particular, and these little hints, the on but mostly off thing with Picard and Crusher, these little hints of what was or what could be. And this is another one of those examples of Star Trek saying, yeah, hey, we're cool with this. Old people are people too. And old people maybe sometimes like to get it on, and none of us should be weirded out by that. So, yeah.
I'm actually getting to an age where I don't want you to say old people anymore.
No, okay. We'll say people of an advanced age.
All right. Maybe you're just going to offend me no matter what you say at this point.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
People, hey, 18-year-old kid watching this show. Yeah, people are people, even if they're 60. I'm not saying whatever, but I am saying whatever. There's certainly a lot to dislike in this episode, I think.
Yep.
This episode reminded me a lot of Space Seed. Specifically, what I hated about Space Seed when we saw it, which was the relationship between Khan and MacGyver's. This has a lot of markings of an abusive relationship, and it goes from 0 to 60. Now, with Khan and MacGyver's was just like into it. I mean, you could argue that Beverly is being, dosed with some sort of anamorphic something or other. And of course, I'm assuming since he's sort of not physical, that he's able to sort of get some sort of psychic something or other off of her as well. So she says things to Crusher like, he knew exactly how to touch me, or he knew exactly how I like to be touched. Right. So, I mean, there are a couple of things going on. First of all, we don't know what is happening to her physically in some respects. By dealing with this anaphasic energy, but then also we seem to be given to understand that he's got a little bit of an advantage, because I don't know if he can read her mind or if he just has a way into her psyche or what. The abusive parts, I mean, first of all, he does take liberties, as I said before, which is putting it very mildly. But I was more thinking just about the relationship side of it. There is the fact that he's isolating Beverly from her friends, and he's isolating Beverly from her interests. Now, maybe he's not doing that. I tend to think he is, but maybe he's not. Maybe she's doing that because she thinks nobody would understand, and it would just, it needs to just be the two of them, because, but like in no time, he becomes like everything in her world. Mm-hmm. She's going to quit being a doctor. She's going to quit flying on a spaceship. She's going to go move back to, this Disney version of Scotland. And it seems to make a case for that being a bad thing. Where it sort of falls apart, though, is when she kind of seems to make it okay. You had a note that I actually stole, and I apologize, but...
Fair enough. It belongs here. So.
Why is Beverly always terrified in the moment, the dream or that first encounter with Ronan, and then all smiles the next day? It's sort of celebrating the person doing the violating because, hey, it's all right in the end, and she's good with it. That's what your note said. And yeah, that seems to be a thing here. Beverly seems to let Ronan off the hook. In the end, even. Well, she doesn't let him off the hook. I mean, she's not sorry she killed him, except she does say she is a bit sad. because he made her grandmother happy. But what we're getting is she is wistful for the abuser.
Yeah.
And that I'm going to go out on a limb and say that feels wrong.
Whoa, taking a controversial stance there, Ken. I'm a little, yeah. No, look, I mean, the difficulty with this episode is that you can tell what they thought they were doing.
Can you? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, this gothic romance with these big, supernatural themes, but the supernatural is really an alien, and we're going to give Beverly something to do that goes well beyond how we've seen her in the show. But from those first few scenes that played out with Beverly being terrified at night, and the next day sitting there with a smile on her face and telling Deanna how she felt and how happy she was, it really felt icky. And you nailed it, that you said that, Ronan, whatever it is that he's doing, he's manipulating the situation. He's manipulating her.
Right.
And we want Beverly to be stronger than that. It takes Picard to come in and sort of help her figure out, this guy who I can ask some very simple questions of that he won't be able to answer, this is what will reveal what's actually going on here. You want, because Beverly's the star of this show, I wanted Beverly to be the stronger character in this show.
Right.
But she's the one who's being manipulated throughout. And yes, it's an abusive relationship. He seems to be the one to stand to gain everything from it. Mm-hmm. But the idea that they would couch this in, but grandmother was happy.
Yeah.
Well, was she? I mean, we're going by her journals, but were her journals half written by Ronan?
This is one of the things that makes this episode particularly difficult. I mean, I can almost go back to This Side of Paradise. They've set up something that's almost impossible here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Grandma seems really happy. Every woman seems to have been happy before. Ronan argues that he loved all of them and they all loved him too. And Beverly's got journals that indicate that, yeah, that is actually the case. There's no real indication here that she would not be happy living the rest of her life in that cabin or in that house with Ronan.
Yeah.
But she's not who she was before, and she is being manipulated. And she can acknowledge that she's being manipulated. I mean, I'm sorry, I might be jumping to the end here a bit, but this episode doesn't seem to actually know what it is it's trying to say. Because you would think that it would be saying, wow, this abusive relationship is bad. Except in the end, she's like, yeah, the abusive relationship was bad, but the feels. Mm-hmm. Which I got to figure, I mean, is half the reason that people stay in abusive relationships anyway. I mean, there are some times where you're forced to stay in an abusive relationship because you don't see any way out. And that's not even just emotionally. That can also be like somebody denying you the resources that you would need to move safely from one place to another.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be talking about stalker behavior. You could be talking about any number of things there. But I mean, but then to end on the note of, yeah, but the feels, it's sort of like, I mean, that doesn't feel like sympathy with Beverly's cause there. It feels more like, well, like I said, it's her being wistful for her abuser. Yeah. And I know that people have to feel that way. But I don't know that that's necessarily that's the message with which we should end. Because in the end, it feels like justification. I mean, even though he got his comeuppance, even though he died, it feels like, but maybe it wasn't so bad. And then I don't know what we're trying to say.
With Ronan safely sent to oblivion, it is time to see what we can take from Sub Rosa.
This is one of those episodes, John. This is one of those episodes. Remember as we were approaching Spock's brain, everybody's like, you have to do Spock's brain. Right? And then other episodes I can't think of right now, but this is one of those episodes. I do know somebody who loves this episode.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those things where we got email way in advance of people either saying like, oh, I can't wait till you get to Sub Rosa to hear you tear it apart. Or, you're about to get to Sub Rosa, don't tear it apart.
Really?
So, again, it just goes back to the theory that every episode is somebody's favorite and somebody's least favorite.
Credit to my friend who is a fan of this episode. She was also like, yeah, rip it to shreds if it needs it. I mean, you know, so it's not like, oh, no, but I like that one. I mean, this isn't like, what are the other ones we're supposed to have fun with? Like I Mud. This is not I Mud where everybody was like, oh, come on, just have a good time with it. Because, just have a good time with the... See, every term I think of is either something that I wouldn't say in good conscience or undersells it. Because to say the lascivious ghost... I mean, that just sounds like a wacky screwball comedy. Right?
No, look, the word is rapist.
Okay, yeah, and yet it hurts to hear it.
I mean, Beverly's assaulted.
She is, and this is the thing, and this is why I hate the way this episode is done. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be asking you. I'm supposed to be letting you say. But let me really quickly say, the reason I hate the way this episode is done is because she is willing to let it go, I'm willing to let it go. Like, you say she's assaulted, and I'm like, yeah, she's assaulted, but... And no, but. She is, in fact, assaulted in this episode. And the fact that I like the Crusher character, and the Crusher character is kind of okay with what happened, kind of sort of makes me want to be okay with what happened. Yeah. And I'm angry that it was written that way. Because, no, this is actually wrong. And the fact that, like, if this were her, like, trying to come to terms with it even, then I might be, well, okay, let her sort of deal. But it's not even that. We're given to understand that she's fine in the end. And in fact, because she's fine in the end, she's actually fine with what happened, too. But you know what? I apologize. Again, I'm sort of derailing, and I shouldn't have done that. What I should do is start with what we do, because this is the part where we talk about the messages, morals, and meanings and try to figure out whether the episode stands the test of time, whether the episode holds up. John, does this episode hold up?
Oh, we're there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that it is completely irredeemable. There are good things to say about it. Gates, the actor, is fine. When she's good, she's really good. When she's given an opportunity to act, she really brings it to the table, you know? Mm-hmm. There's another aspect of this story that I like. In horror movies, here's how the ghost stories are handled. You establish that people are afraid that there might be a ghost. We don't really know that there's a ghost. And then by the time you get to the end of the movie, you just reveal they're really terrifying ghosts. And all those people were right to be afraid of the ghosts because ghosts are real and they're coming after you. Right. Okay. But, in those, it's never really handled by just a simple real-world explanation. In Star Trek, though, we have okay, here's what's really happening, and it's nothing supernatural. We have that answer. Mm-hmm. And I like seeing that. I like seeing a little sigh in my sci-fi, if you will. And look, like I said, there's something that I can at least sort of wrap my mind around what the writers, producers are trying to do here. It's an attempt at a mood piece, something that is a gothic romance kind of thing. And I've said it before, as stretchy a format as Star Trek is, and it can handle a lot. We've seen Star Trek pretend to be a courtroom drama before, and that worked well. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Star Trek do comedy before, and that has worked well. But this isn't, well, it has sometimes. Okay. It has sometimes, not all the time. But this isn't a story that is working well on top of the Star Trek format. It's just not. And I think the thing that I can't get away from, and you really put a button on it in the last segment, is this abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. So, there isn't any sort of good way to describe or to let go of the idea that this is an assault on Beverly, and the scenes that weird me out are the next morning where she's perfectly fine with what happened. This is romantic. This is fun. Well, it wasn't a few hours ago. A few hours ago, it was terrifying, and this person is manipulating you. But then, like you said, well, it just comes back to the feeling. Well, it felt like it was fun. It felt like this was new and exciting and wonderful, but it's actually something abusive. And there's a real world parallel to this. There's a real world thing going on here where people are in abusive relationships, but well, it kind of brings up these other feelings and it kind of works. And I can say that I'm happy. So the abuse sort of maintains itself, or the relationship sort of maintains itself that way. This is a bizarre story for Star Trek to have tried to tell anyway. And it just feels like they fumbled the ball every time when they tried to tell it. I want Star Trek to deal with complex relationships. I want Star Trek to deal with things that are unsavory from time to time. Again, I think that Star Trek is flexible enough to do that. This was not the way to do that. So no, it doesn't hold up. Even though there are things in here to like, at the end of the day, this does not hold up. It does not work. How about you?
Well, not to be indelicate, parts of it are hot. I mean, Gates McFadden is an attractive woman, and when she is in the throes of passion, if you will, it's interesting because you said, this was on several times of day and they had to be conscious of who was watching it. She's having sex with a ghost. And if you know anything, so let's say like maybe when you were 10 or 11 watching this, you wouldn't have had any idea. When you're 12 or 13, you have an idea of what's going on with her, I think. And so that's kind of weird. When you just said, well, let me go ahead with that for a second. I mean, there is something to be said for portrayal of passion. There is something to be said even for power play. I said in our Space Seed episode, there's something to be said for that, for seeing that in adult relationships, if both people are consenting. This is not that. I mean, This is not that thing. I mean, I can kind of understand if you're willing to not look at anything but what's happening on screen immediately, right? Because you said earlier that that Picard was able to sort of shake Beverly out of it. Well, he was able to shake Beverly out of it because they were dealing with a literal, actual monster, right? Yeah. Not dealing with a guy. Because if they were dealing with a guy, that's a harder thing to shake someone out of, it seems. I mean, if you could go to someone and say, no, look, see, in his real form, he has tentacles and like big sharp teeth. He's what we on the planet Earth would call Cthulhu. If you can do that, then you win. But then all Picard really has to do is come out with the sciencey science reason, right? Yeah. The Scottish theme part, as you put it, moving on to other things that don't work in this episode, makes no sense at all, especially run by an alien that even Memory Alpha says is of indeterminate origin. Here's the thing, though. You said a minute ago as well that you like to see Star Trek deal with complex relationships. And if they had done that, that would be great. Last week, I wanted less family stuff. This week, I want less tech. This week, I honestly want less Star Trek in the Star Trek because there's a really important issue being... Well, I was going to say really important issue being discussed here, but it's not being discussed. It's being walked around. It's being talked around. I would have been really good with 48 minutes of discussing this relationship and choosing to end it not because he's going to kill Data and going to kill Geordi, but because their relationship is consuming her, right? Lose the tech stuff, because assuming the writer is saying what I hope the writer is saying, we're in danger of losing that message. I mean, once it becomes a ghost story, once we find out that it really is a ghost, and it's not a ghost, but it's a monster. I mean, once we decide because you're a monster, you have to go away. But the problem is it's an, according to Hoyle, monster. Not just like somebody that you would look at and go, that dude's a monster. I mean, he's actually a monster, right? I really wish he hadn't actually been a monster. I wish he had actually been, I mean, I don't know how you would actually write it in the science fiction sense, but I wish we had spent 48 minutes talking about what was really going on with Beverly. Because we see something very destructive happening, and in the end, it's all wiped away because science, or because science fiction, or because fantasy, or because we're at minute 47. We really need this to wrap up. So let's say metaphasic something. Well, we can't say metaphasic because then she'll want to throw the candle in the sun. Okay, well, let's say anaphasic then. Okay, right. That's fine. It's not that Gates McFadden is bad. I feel sorry for Frakes, honestly, that he got handed this script, because usually I've been very impressed with his direction. Man, I don't know what anybody could have done with this except say, can I have another one? Can I pick again?
No, it needed a rewrite to figure out what the core of the story was going to be here. Had it been something where, and maybe Beverly wasn't even the right character to do this with, and probably not Deanna Troi either. And I don't know who that character is, but yeah, what you're getting at is something very different, which is, oh wait, we're actually going to explore something here about not having this kind of terrible relationship, instead of just defeat the monster, everybody go home.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been an entirely different episode.
Right. But once you can, like, straight up legit say he is a monster, well, then of course she's going to walk away from him, because he is a monster.
Yeah.
If you can, metaphysically or metaphorically say he's a monster, and then trying to get her, out of that.
Yeah.
Then you've got something, real, and something that, then you would say, why is my child having to watch this? Oh, you're right. Okay, we'll put a monster in. Does that make it better? Yes, that makes it much better. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So did it deliver a message then? I guess that's my other question, because I'm watching it the whole time thinking that it is about that thing, that it's about the abusive relationship, except that message is undercut, first of all, by the fact that he's actually a physical monster, and then second, by her saying at the end, but he was sweet. Was there a message here as far as you're concerned?
The only way that I can remotely put a silver lining around this cloud is to say, just to go back to that thing about, if he's literally a monster and we're just going to treat it like that. The message here is, remember, there is no such thing as ghosts. In Scooby-Doo, it was just an old man with a mask trying to get insurance money out of an abandoned amusement park. In this case, it's just an old alien in a hot young guy mask trying to take corporeal form by living in a human host body. It all
comes back to Scooby-Doo. Although I have to correct you on one thing, I'm afraid. You don't put a silver lining around a cloud, because then it's no longer a lining. You've just got a silver cloud.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Which would be cool.
I'll take that silver cloud.
If you can put a silver lining around the cloud, you're a winner.
Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer, Rod Roddenberry. Now, Roddenberry does all kinds of stuff when you're not watching, including a podcast or 2 or 3 or more. You can check out this show as well as Women at Warp and Priority One at podcast.roddenberry.com. Hey, if you want to help support us directly, patreon.com/missionlog is a fine place to do that. For more exciting Star Trek podcasts, you can check out Trek FM, that's trek.fm. And for the latest in Star Trek news and discussion, be sure to visit trekmovie.com.
Next week, Lower Decks.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com, and from the album Messages by Key Theory, free to download at kitheory.com. My candle burns at both ends. No, let us try. And it seems to me, Ronan lived his life like a candle in the... No. Tell you what. Let us just say end transmission. End transmission.